Absolutely. So number one thing that we talk about setting up your space is figuring out where that space is. So we tackle that in room analysis. Now, I'm going to talk about the 5 different days that we did for home studio rehab so that you get a better idea instead of me going really deep. So number one thing is analyze your space, because when you analyze your space and you figure out where you're going to be streaming from, it makes it so much easier for you to then think about all of the things that you need to add. Let's say you already have a a nice big window that you want to utilize for space. If you have a ton of windows, well, then we got to figure out how to minimize the light coming in, because sometimes excess light can blow out your eyes. I mean, literally, because we don't like looking into the sun. So having a ton of light coming in is going to do the same thing for your camera. The number two thing that we look at is the same thing that I just mentioned. So once we analyze the room, we know where the windows are. That's where the light source is. So number two is the light source that's coming in your room. How can you manage that light source? It makes it really easy when you can manage and control the light source, because then you can focus and be intentional with that light. So you focus the light on yourself, you focus the light on the talent, and that's the number two thing. The number three thing is very, very important as well. It's probably more important than one and two, because this is the audio that's getting recorded in your video. If people cannot hear you, if they cannot tell what you're talking about, then they were not gonna relate to you. They're not gonna relate to the message that you're saying. So we want to focus on audio more than everything else. Once you have the audio down, then we move on into studio design. Now, studio design talks about what's in your background. Why do we want to talk about what's in my background? Because that's going to connect your audience. That's connect me with who I am with you. So for example, if I change my camera settings just a tad bit, now you can see what's
Yep.
in my background. You see the stormtroopers back there. That connects immediately with the audience. So it shows the audience that, hey, I love stormtroopers, I love the Marvels, and so it makes that connection with the audience, and they know immediately what I'm about. So that's studio design, and I know it should probably sit next to room analysis. You analyze your room, what your design is going to be, and then go into lighting and audio. But again, these are the main pillar points that I like to focus on. The last thing is the camera. Now we all have cameras. We have $1,000 cameras in our pockets for the iPhones and the Samsungs. These phones cost $1,000, and they have really good optics. They have really good cameras that can capture really good video. Start utilizing what you have. So I focus on reducing the friction. I focus on reducing the level of effort that you have to put in before you spend a ton of money, because I can go buy $250 running shoes, but that does not mean that I can go run a marathon tomorrow, because I need to practice, right? So the reason I was able to start with this camera is because I had this equipment for the past decade. So does that mean that I'm using decade-old technology? Absolutely. It's probably 3, 4 years old, the cameras that I'm using, but because physics doesn't change the cameras, the lighting does. So if you have the lighting right, you have the audio right, any camera is going to function just right. The next thing that you want to do is practice, 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 practice. And then if you've done enough practice, just practice a little bit more.